think about and figure out, why do we not hear about generational wealth in our community? So why? Well, let's think about it. Let's just first, like, I wanted to break it down versus our age groups, and then in as far as our culture, because there's a big difference in generational wealth with the baby boomers to the millennials. So the wealth gap between generations has doubled over the last 20 years. So millennials earn 20% less than the baby boomers did at their age, and our net worth continues to decrease daily. And that's because we have the recession that we grew up in, thanks to 9/11 and the crazy stuff that happened around that time, due to hella expensive housing markets that happened after recession, and due to the student loan debts that majority of people have, because for some reason education costs millions of dollars to basically do nothing with sometimes, which sucks. But that really has set us behind just age wise. And then let's talk about culture wise. Black families have come far, but we are still behind. So our community actually will make up soon in the future the majority of the population. Sorry, white people, but it is what it is. But we'll continue to fall behind. And the average wealth of white families is well over $700,000 over the wealth of Black families. So most of the time, average wealth in the family, with this includes their assets and their income every year, is $919,000 versus the average Black family home of $140,000. So that is crazy.
Yeah.
When I was reading those numbers, like I said, these are all facts that as I was doing this, because to me, generational wealth is so important, especially now. When I was reading these facts, I said, what the hell? Like, why is it that it's such a gap? We talked about wage gaps before, and that's just man and woman. But really, when it comes to race between whites and Blacks, it's different. And then if you factor in Hispanics as well, it's even greater. So I'm just going to pause there because I know I just gave y'all a whole bunch of numbers. Like I said, it speaks to my heart, but that might not be y'all love language. So
I was talking to Toya's face.
Toya was like, "Girl, you're rambling. Shut up. Come on." But
No,
I
you're
love
not rambling.
no, but I love see, this kind of stuff is just like, huh. But I think it's so important that we get that information out there, because unless we read about it or unless it's taught in school, no one knows about it. Like, how many times growing up at the dinner table did you ever hear generational wealth?
Right.
You know,
Everything is more so day to day. It's like good times, honestly. Everybody's scratching and surviving. That's what you hear about more than anything else. And I know that, everyone's always talking about not living paycheck to paycheck, which is great. But like, being able to even get to the point where you're not living paycheck to paycheck is a thing in and of itself. I know, unfortunately, a lot of people have a tendency to keep up with the Joneses and live outside of their means. Y'all better stop worrying about what the Joneses is doing, unless you're trying to take their formula to figure out how to better yourself. But if you're just out here spending in exactly what you're bringing in, that's where we got to kind of slow down and reassess what we're doing and where we're putting our money and how we're actually attributing to building our own wealth.
This is a great conversation. I am in no way, shape, or form an expert, and I'm figuring out things on my own, because as Shani said, growing up in my household, and Jen, you touched on it too, like it was just the day to day. It was just trying to get by. I know, of course, I have conversations with my kids, but I talk to my kids about everything, like, and it's, they've had moments where I'm telling them things, and then the next day I'll ask them, like, were they able to retain that? Like, did you understand what I was saying yesterday? Did you understand what we were talking about? And they get it, and we're able to, when I see them doing other things and the mindset that I've been trying to instill in them, it comes out there. I'm like, okay, so they do pay attention.
right.
Jen, you said, why is it that, generational wealth isn't, something that's prominent within our community? Well, honestly, we of course we got a late start. We're kind of just now getting, as a community as a whole, getting around to getting started. at some point, our people, our ancestors were assets for white people. They were able to use their slaves as collateral. They were able to, redline districts years later, once slavery was over, so to speak, where white people they had access to certain things that we didn't. So, when it comes to property and things like that, there are areas of the city where I grew up in a town, and there are spaces in there where certain houses never ever go on sale. Those houses never go on sale because they continue to keep it within the family, and they pass it down over and over again. And that's something that, even with my father's side of the family who live in Virginia, there's so much land, and there's so much land on my father's side of the family, but there's a significant amount of land that was forfeited by other folks in the family because, the white man said, here, I'm going to give you a couple $1,000s for it, and profited for decades, for generations from it. So it's difficult to sit and look back and say why, without understanding that, yeah, you can know why, but what are you going to do about it now? I had a very heated debate, I want to say Thursday night, with a friend of mine, and it was around Kamala, and that shit pissed me off. Being completely honest, everybody's being very nasty, and it's stupid. And as it regards to Uncle Joey, because that's what I call him, and I've been calling that man that for 14 years. The same thing, like, yeah, we want to talk about the 94 crime bill, and it did do significant amount of damage to the Black community. There's no refuting that. And I never want to give someone the narrative right now, and I'm twisting it, I'm sorry, to a little bit of political conversation, and then we can come back. I never want to give the conversation like, well, we got to vote for them because we know what the alternative is. But even in voting for them, people don't realize that one person in such a high level position, even if their name is on something and they're considered the quote author of it, they didn't write it by themselves.
Correct.
And when you write anything, you go off of references. So you're going off of what someone has presented to you. You're being asked to back something, and you're being asked to do it. So you go to find references to back that. I think what we need to hear out of Uncle Joey's mouth and out of Kamala's mouth is an apology, a forward straight blank apology. Yes, it did significant damage, but the conversation that I was having, it stemmed more towards what we're talking about right now. Like, yeah, we missed out on a lot of opportunities, but how long are we going to be like, oh, woe is me? And this is not me saying pick yourself up by your bootstraps. No, but just change it. Like, I'm not going to see it in my lifetime where our community is, head honcho out this motherfucker of America. I'm not going to see it. My kids might not see it, but if I am doing my part to say the things that need to be said, to instill, proper financial etiquette into them, to give them the resources that they need. When I look at their accounts, I have an attitude sometimes because I'd be like, I would like to purchase some things. However, you're sitting on this money, and it makes me feel good, but it's also like, graduating, I didn't have a head start. I didn't have a cushion from my parents. I want them to have that, and I want them to know that a part of bringing a child into this world is setting them up to be better than you. So we know the information, and we know the history behind it, and we know how it has affected our community, and how we are so lopsided in our mindset. We need to be more unified in how we approach being a basic community member of the United States of America. But what can we do going forward, other than talking to our own children, other than reposting someone who is speaking on financial literacy? Like, what else can we do?
I mean, I think what you said is definitely valid. And like you said, we're probably not going to see it at all, but what the steps that we are taking as far as investing in our children mentally, as well as financially, is definitely going to be important, because we're setting up the foundation to form generational wealth. And I think that a major thing is we invest in our community ourselves. Like, I love this one group on Facebook that's called Black Dollars Matter, where they basically, everybody posts their business, and you support it if you want to support it. If not, if it's as simple as just simply reposting a reposting a flyer or a sale or something that somebody has, and people just constantly post on it and share. And it's just a simple thing of just following somebody so you can see and supporting it. For the longest time, we haven't seen that. So that's definitely important.
Yeah, passing down that information is important, and continuing to promote and make the Black dollars matter is absolutely important. But we don't want to just continue to, you know, put money into the community for goods and services without, learning that investing is completely important. And again, this is, for me, I don't want to say it's an uncomfortable conversation, but I don't think that I am personally educated enough to say these are the steps you got to take to do XYZ, because I'm figuring it out right now all on my own. And I won't say all on my own, that's unfair, but on my own, damn it. No, stop.
No, I mean, it's very valid. I mean, you're not doing it on your own, but you are the primary source.
Absolutely.
It's hard.
So it is something that I'm looking forward to continue to, dive into and be exposed to different ways in order to leave something for the great grands that I might never ever meet. Another little pie faced girl that's running around trying to do stuff. That's all. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. So I know Jen mentioned that her love language is numbers. But if you guys have been with us, my love language is music. So Everything is Love, I absolutely love that album. And I'm sure everyone heard when Beyonce said, "My great grandchildren are already rich." That's a lot of brown kids on your Forbes list. Like, to me, that is
Absolutely.
exactly what generational wealth means. And actually, if anyone is interested, there is an article on a website called medium.com. And I can get you the name of the actual article, but it breaks down generational wealth using all of the songs from Everything is Love. It's so dope.
Girl,
No, I'm no.
you wrote that. That's what happened. Talking about something. I got an article on Medium.
Don't make me create a blog, okay? Because I thought about that. Yes, but to me, those are the kinds of things that sometimes I like to see, because sometimes, a lot of times actually, when we give people information about financial literacy or generational wealth, a lot of times you get a lot of like bank jargon, you get a lot of things that are not easily digestible for the consumer. So for me, I'm like reading through this, like, oh, this is dope, because you can apply all of these concepts real life. They're already things that you guys listen to. So I would definitely check that out. But I do agree with us trying to figure out ways. And I know Toya said, well, like, how are we going to do that? And I think I agree. It's more than just reposting a blog here or liking something there. I think that getting the word out is really where it starts, but also showing our kids that it's another way than just this hard 9 to 5 grind. I know with my kids, there is an account through Capital One, and it's called a money account. You can get it when you're 8, and I think some other banks offer it too. That comes with like a little debit card. So we put money on it. So they can go up to the register, get whatever they're getting, swipe their card, enter their PIN number. Those are the basic ways that we can show kids how to manage money. So if you're going to give your kids an allowance, well, why can't we pull up these accounts and show them this is what you have, this is what your balance is, this is what's pending? Those just small concepts, I think, that sometimes are missing, is a really good place to start to change in our community how we actually view money. And I teach the kids all the time, just because you have it doesn't mean you have to spend it.
Just spend it.
And to me, that's also a key piece of being able to build wealth. Just because the money is sitting there doesn't mean that you have to spend it. And if you do want to spend it, they keep talking about even like Apple Split, right? So those are the kinds of places, maybe if you do have extra money, put into it. So no, you don't have to buy full Apple stock. You can buy shares. These are things that I have not always known, but as I'm getting older, I'm getting into trying to diversify my portfolio. And I think we've talked about that before too. So when you do come into extra funds, figure out how to reallocate it. And I'm not saying that you can't go out and buy your Mac, buy your Sephora, buy your... Please do. We're all in quarantine. We deserve nice things. But you also deserve to be able to put that money to the side. Because I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be the Walmart greeter when I turn 80. I can't do it.
That's something that there's someone at one of my supermarkets, and she's like